Thanks for logging on to myfoxhurricane.com. We're watching these two areas. Obviously, we've been talking about Gabrielle for the past couple of days, and we're also watching this other area, which has just now worked its way off the coast of Africa. And we're going to continue to, more than likely over the next several weeks, just watch more of these tropical waves working their way off the coast, and then just assess how vigorous do these waves look and just see what kind of a chance they have. But this one, right around a 20% chance of development. That's what the Hurricane Center is putting on this right now. And I'll show you that coming up in a little bit, where the computer model is just not all that enthusiastic about that system. So here's that close-up visible satellite loop of now Tropical Storm Gabrielle. And yesterday was looking at this, and it was an interesting looking storm because the center was well exposed and a lot of the convection was sitting well away from the center. Now today, just at first glance, it does look better organized, and beginning part of the loop, you can still clearly see the center exposed, but we're at least getting some of that convection closer to the center through the overnight hours. And really, in just about the past 2 hours or so, you're starting to see more of this convection starting to just blossom on that southern side and right near the center. So really starting to look like conditions are becoming more favorable, and that's allowing more of these storms to develop near the center. That's what you're looking for with a developing tropical system. When conditions become favorable, you're going to see more of that convection right near the center of the storm. And what has been going on over the past several days is dry air and wind shear. Those are both just not good for tropical development. They inhibit the system. They just don't allow it to really get that circulation, and a lot of that dust has been being drawn into the system. That, along with just regular old dry air that is out in the atmosphere, in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And then when you get the winds blowing over, it does a couple of things. It kind of knocks it off kilter. It also helps to drive some of that dry air into the system. Now, we're still looking at some moderate wind shear over this, but all the models really indicating that as we go through the next, say, day and a half, that wind shear is going to start to lessen. And here's that current wind shear. You can see that larger area sitting to the north and east of this system. So it's starting to move away from that larger amounts of wind shear, or stronger wind shear. And as it continues to work its way in this direction, that's where you're seeing we've got lower wind shear in the atmosphere. That's why conditions become more favorable. More favorable conditions as far as the wind shear. Any dry air is going to have an easier time of dealing with that because that dry air is not being just driven right into the system. So that's why the forecast, everything's suggesting that this will start to strengthen as we go through the weekend. And then you also have this jet stream and this trough across the eastern U.S. That is what's also going to really help to pick this system and steer it on towards the north and really just protect the U.S., not allow anything to head in our direction. And it's basically just riding on that periphery of the ridge and pushing on towards the north. So here's the latest. Winds are still right now at 50 miles an hour. It's moving to the northwest at 12 miles an hour. The forecast track hasn't changed a whole lot other than it just continues to maybe shift a little bit more towards the east. Really what we've been looking at, because that forecast track's been really pretty spot on over the past couple of days, is just that forward speed of the system and then the intensity of the storm. How strong is it going to get and how quickly is it going to get there? Now it looks like before it gets near Bermuda, it will eventually become a hurricane as we go through the week. And looks like by Sunday morning, that's when we expect this to become a hurricane. And then as it turns towards the north and the east, here you see all the way up to 110 miles an hour. So not quite a major hurricane, but close to it. Close enough that tells you there's that possibility this could be even a bit stronger. So we could, by next week, be talking about a major hurricane. But the nice thing is it would be moving out over open water. So no real concerns as far as that. You look at the computer models and you continue to see that really tight clustering all the way through that turn. It's after the turn and after it starts to strengthen and move, that's where you're starting to see a bit more in the spread, but you're still seeing a pretty good cluster right through here. And again, it's out over open water, and just a big part of this is just exactly how fast is it going to move as it makes that turn. So been watching this over the past several days, really a good indicator showing you the strengthening of the system. So here we're looking at the Fox model, and you're looking at those peak wind gusts over time. So that's where you're seeing this in that range up in the tropical storm force as we head through Saturday. Then watch what happens right as it starts to make that turn. You really start to see a big ramp up in that intensity, starting to head up this scale and then just continuing up that scale. That's where you're seeing that much stronger as it works its way away from Bermuda and moving out over the open waters. So here's a wide view where we're watching not only Gabrielle, but we're also watching that tropical wave working its way off the coast of Africa. So there's Gabrielle making its way towards Bermuda to the east of Bermuda. But notice this wave as it continues to work its way on towards the west. At least for now, the computer models are not all that impressed with this, not really doing a whole lot of development, but we'll continue to watch this. We'll continue to assess to see what the conditions are to see if this one has a better chance of developing. But at least for now, not looking all that favorable that we're going to see much in the way of development as we go through the weekend and into next week with that that next system working its way off the coast of Africa. Of course, we'll keep you updated right here on myfoxhurricane.com.